Hello everyone and welcome to Drambling. I'm KTH77, or you can call me Keith. That's what my parents call me. And also, thanks to my previous guest, Mr. Babel, for giving me the great name for the show, Drambling. Anyways, enough talking about the old guest, let's talk about this guest. Guest, introduce yourself.
Hello. I don't really have much of a name that I like sharing,
Well, I
but
mean,
I'm SeishinNoIro on YouTube, I guess.
there we go, yeah.
Not that I upload anything, but there you go.
Session. Alright,
Session.
that's just to figure out which internet, name you want to go with.
Yeah.
Alright, so as I'm trying to make it a thing that I start every show with is watching any good cartoons lately?
No, I don't really watch TV.
Alright,
Sorry.
well then how about games? Playing any good games lately?
That's a good question. I don't know. I suppose there was that anime fighter.
Melty Blood?
Yeah.
Melty Blood. Melty Blood is hilariously anime. I
Yeah,
enjoy
it
it.
very much is.
How about you tell the audience a little bit about Melty Blood?
Well, it's older. It's based on an anime that I've never seen, so I have no clue what the story is. And it's one of those games that, well, it being a fighting game, I guess you kind of assume that the story is going to be kind of nonsense and a little bit everywhere, and it really is. At least from what I have seen, playing only the small number of characters that I have played through the arcade mode. But it's older, it's a little bit not as pretty, I suppose, as all these newfangled modern ones that you youngins are playing.
This has some pretty nice 2D animation to it.
Yeah, I like it.
So tell them a little bit about your favorite character.
She has a really silly name. It's Archetype Earth. I know, it sounds ridiculous. It's an anime fighter, what do you want?
Indeed.
But she basically, I don't know what she is actually. I was about to say she's a princess, but I don't think she is. I have no idea.
I mean, like, she's like possessing a princess.
I think.
She's like some kind of ghost.
Or something that came from the Earth, because I remember her saying at the end that she was going to return to the Earth or something like that.
I mean, that just might be a badly translated Japan way of saying, I'm going to go back to Deadland.
Maybe. But she sasses everyone in mildly classical Japanese, so that entertains me greatly.
Yeah, if you didn't know, Session, loving the language. He's a big
His,
time linguist kind of guy.
a historical linguist, to be precise.
Yes.
I sounded really pretentious about that. I didn't mean it like that.
Oh, sorry, I'm a historical.
Historical linguist? Get it right. No.
I didn't go to 10 years of historical language college. Take your nonsense.
Where is this historical language college? I need to go to it. Because it doesn't exist here. Tell me where it is.
Um, it's probably in Melty Blood,
In Narnia? Darn it.
Narnia.
I don't have a wardrobe to get there, and dang. Anyway,
But yes, right now I'm just sort of doodling up my favorite character and doodling it badly, but whatever. It's a quick warm-up drawing of Hisui Mecha or Becca Hisui. I can't remember. Who is
I don't even.
She's a robot maid. And usually I'm not a
Yes.
big fan of the whole maid situation, but she's just hilarious because she says beep out loud. Like, she doesn't go like boop, boop, boop. She just says beep beep.
She says the word beep.
And I love it. It's great. I I wanna. Part of me wants to just watch this show just for this character, but then I'm like, no, she's gonna suck in the show. She's like gonna have like barely any screen time, and the whole joke is gonna be she has robot boobs, and I'm like, it's gonna It's gonna ruin the beautiful illusion.
Yeah. Let's just stick to the game and pretend. Well, I don't even know. She might not even be in the anime. Who knows?
Yeah. But I don't know. I just have a thing. I really like small, cute characters that then pull out giant weapons. And she does that. Like, she can like go gadget, make her hand fly out. But oh, and also just want to say, last time I did this, I just basically drew what I saw as reference. I'm gonna try to more be loose and just kind of, I guess, I'm not gonna say draw in my drawing style because I legitimately don't feel like I have a solid drawing style yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna freeform doodle this nonsense up. So
Sounds good.
We'll see how much of a disaster this is.
The greatest disaster there ever was.
That's a weird thing. Why would you call it a great disaster? It's either this is a disaster or this is great. You're getting your words confused.
No, it can be both.
Okay. I mean, I don't see what was so great about the Great Depression.
It was large.
Oh. It had Hooverville in it. That was pretty cool.
Hmm.
How good of a president was Hoover? I'm not sure.
Oh, I don't know. Got me.
I mean, the Great Depression happened on his watch, but I mean, was that really his fault? That was like the banks and credit cards and stuff.
I have no clue.
He was just like hoovering around.
Got me.
Really blame him? Anyways, do you remember anything about, like, Mecha Hisui's story was weird because she's just like in a robo lab,
Mm-hmm.
and then like a shadow cat person broke into the lab who could summon deer.
And all the other characters in some weird, wispy, ghost-like way.
Yeah, and then like you kind of go out, and then you just run into people and beat them up because what else are you going to do when you're a robot maid and you go on a walk? I guess.
Or on a nice Sunday fly through the city.
Wait, she could also turn into like a jet.
Yeah.
That's fun. And then,
Yeah, I don't...
And then you just sort of, you meet like the god of blood and beat her up, and then you get amnesia and take over the world.
Yeah. And you're mass-produced at the end and destroy everything.
Like, and like in Earth Archetype's story, it's like you're just kind of going on a murder spree.
Because it amuses her at the time, I suppose.
And then you then fight the girl, I guess you're possessing as her.
You have to, at the last battle is where you take control of the character you're possessing and you fight Archetype Earth in her mind.
Something like that. And apparently you're going to destroy all of humanity in like Noah's Ark it or something.
She was going to commit suicide or something like that, and that would destroy everyone for some reason. I'm not really sure.
At one point you fought like this lady with like a big hat.
I can't remember.
It was like she was like had a big hat and like she's like on top of like a giant mecha monstrosity.
Oh, yeah.
And like you could only beat her by cheesing her out.
Yeah. And also, in the victory quote, Archetype Earth called her an insurance agent.
Something like that.
I don't know.
That was like the mid boss for Earth Archetype, but that was like the final boss for Mecha Hisui.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know what kind of shoes is she wearing. I'm having trouble telling because like all the pictures are just like of her torso. Nah, she's just like wearing some girl shoes.
Maid shoes.
And like black stockings or something. I don't know.
You don't want to use...
Huh?
You don't want to use that color palette you found that you liked so much?
Well, I mean, I'm not color gated right now, so...
Oh.
If I
What do you mean?
I'm I'm just doing lines right now. If I want to color it in, I guess I could do that later. And then I could use
You
that
don't
color palette I like.
you don't just color things in as you go.
No.
That's a joke. I know how that goes.
I'm sorry I didn't find a good way to bring that joke home.
How dare you?
I'm just gonna draw some frills for a moment because it's kind of fun.
Okay.
Yeah, necessary detail. But yeah, there was an alternate coloration of her where she had like a pink dress and blue hair, and I was like, ah, that's so cute. And it makes the joke funnier. It makes it funnier that she like pulls out, she like go gadget arms and pulls out missile launchers and grenade launchers and machine guns, but she's also like dressed in pink and has like cute blue hair. That makes it even funnier.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, am I sexist for that? Being like, I like it when this cute looking girl looks even cuter but then pulls out deadly weapons. It makes me happy and I think it's funny. Am I like being sexist about that? Am I just wrong for enjoying that?
I'm sure to someone somewhere in the world, yes.
True.
That said,
But you know what? I like Samus Aran, and it's not because she's cute at all. It's just because she's cool, and she beats up space pterodactyls and doesn't afraid of anyone.
except another M.
Well, yeah. Then she's terrified of space pterodactyls, which is weird because at that point she'd already killed them like at least twice or something.
Yeah, like 5 or 6 times.
Well, let's see. When did Other M takes place before Super Metroid, right, or after?
After it.
After Super Metroid, before Prime, or definitely before, Fusion.
The Prime series takes place between Metroid 2 and Super Metroid.
Right, and I know Other M takes place after wait.
After Super Metroid.
But the Prime games take place before Super Metroid?
Right.
But I don't know. I'll have to look up the official Nintendo lore to see if that is. I kind of like
It wouldn't... Hmm?
I'm sorry, I was just gonna pat my own back and say I kind of like how my Mecha Hisui came out.
I'm sure it would be lovely if I could see it.
Yeah, we tried to do a lot of things. Didn't super work.
Yeah. But, anyway.
But yeah, you're saying...
I forgot. What was I saying?
I'm the worst host. I make my guests forget what they're saying.
How dare you? We're not friends anymore.
Oh no! Beep beep.
We were talking about...
We were talking about Metroid and then
Oh, yeah.
where it takes place.
I was going to say, it wouldn't surprise me to know that they retconned it a little bit because... with Other M. Or they tried to anyway. Because if you've seen the Zelda timeline, then you might know that Nintendo's not too good at this whole like consistent storytelling thing.
Yeah, when does so does Breath of the Wild just take place in the super future from the other games, or is it its own continuity?
I actually don't know.
Anyways, let's actually talk about what we are going to talk about today. Let's move on from the warm-up. The warm-up that lasted us, like, 14 minutes. Okay, that's not bad for a warm-up. I was afraid I dragged on too long. Anyways. So, you're going to talk about shows that you grew up with, and then you're going to ask me questions that I'll answer?
Well, I was going to start with the old Scooby-Doo cartoons.
Righto, Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? Is it the very one, Scooby-Doo, where are you?
I don't actually know if the title or the show had a subtitle or not, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, the old Hanna-Barbera one.
Yeah, it's probably the first Scooby-Doo. I think it was just called Scooby-Doo, and they're like, that's just the theme song, Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Yeah, where are you?
We got some. So anyways, about Scooby-Doo.
That was the first one that just came to mind, because I remember things that probably wouldn't fly today, like when they would run from the bad guy and it would just be a scrolling background that loops every 2 seconds.
Yeah, there's a fair amount of cartoons that like straight up make fun of that. Like they'll do that repeating background, and then the characters will just kind of stop and look at it and be like, "What's going on?" Like
I remember. Sorry,
yes,
go ahead.
no, you go ahead. I could you go first.
I was gonna say, I remember the Cartoon Network when they would show the Scooby Doo on Cartoon Network, kind of back in the day, I guess, and they would have those little snippets of as if the cartoon characters were actually actors in a studio. So they would be filming that, and then the camera would pan out, and it would just be the characters running on a treadmill, and just the background would just be one single piece of, like, I don't know, paper, wallpaper or something, and it would just be on these two rollers and scrolling infinitely,
Yeah,
because it was only just barely big enough to be wider than the camera's frame.
only just barely.
So that would be why it was looping, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a few shows that like they just do that in like their show where you pull back like, oh, when did I get on a treadmill? Ah.
And I remember stuff like when they enter a scene and there was always something in the background that you knew the characters were going to interact with or was going to move in some way because it was brighter than everything else.
Wait, this isn't a background painting. It must be a clue, gang.
Yeah. So I guess that's my first question. Why is it that that's how, at least in the old cartoons, that's how it would go? Like, why is it that they could not just make that blend with the background better, or make the background more like the characters, if that makes sense?
There's a lot of things like you gotta know that there's like a lot of moving parts in a cartoon show. Like there's the fact that like when you look at a show, you're actually looking at like dozens of like clear plastic sheets laid on each other, and each one of those plastic sheets has like a different drawing on them.
Uh,
So like even if you see something like if there's a character who's like mostly standing still but like maybe just their arm moves, that's because there's like another little transparent plastic sheet or cell, animation cell I guess, with that person's arm on it that they're drawing because they didn't want to redraw the entire dude just to make it
yeah,
happen.
I was gonna say there's something like that in that for that specific thing that you just mentioned in some fighting games that are 2D and have those, I don't know what you want to call it, 2D sprites. Yeah, where for example, if you remember Archetype Earth's Arc Drive, where she points at the person she caught and then fires that big laser. There's that moment where after she's caught them, she appears next to them, and then all she does is sort of bring her arm up toward them. And if you look at the sprite sheet for her, that particular animation, it's just her arm.
Yeah.
So I assume that the rest of her sprite just loops through its default animation, but without her left or right arm, whichever one it is.
Right.
And it's just her arm that comes up.
And
That made me think of that.
yeah. Then there's also sort of like the fact that they're probably like shipping off most of this show overseas to have the actual work done. Like Hanna-Barbera, I'm not sure how much in studio they were or how much they shipped overseas. I don't know, it's hard to tell because a lot of different shows are different, and I'm not sure how new the overseas things. It's like, I don't know, like I know like shows like Inspector Gadget, it's like, oh yeah, that's 100% Americans made that, but then they just like got a Japanese animation studio to work on it because it looks like a Japanese cartoon from the 80s, except it's Inspector Gadget.
Right.
I'm on it, Commissioner! So, not... Yeah, I feel kind of embarrassed. I don't know how much in-house work Hanna-Barbera did. Gennady Tartakovsky... Gendy, my boy Gendy, I apologize, I don't know as much about the studio that gave you your first big break, and I should, as like your frothing fanboy. I feel bad about that. Also, my Scooby has no spots, but Scooby's head doesn't have spots on it, so he just looks weirdly bare.
Huh. What other cartoons did Hanna-Barbera do?
They did a lot. Well, they did the Yogi Bear show.
That one is one I've heard about, but I've never really watched it.
I barely watched it. Oh, Yogi, this isn't a very good idea. Oh, boo-boo. We gotta get the picnic basket. Oh, boo-boo.
I remember that Boomerang channel that would play those cartoons.
Very nostalgic.
But yeah, I'm sure if as you named them, I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that one. Oh yeah, I remember that one. But I
do
can't.
know they were Dexter's Lab was a Hanna-Barbera show.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. But of course I watched. Well, I guess I shouldn't say. Of course I watched it, but I did watch that one a lot.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Oh, by the way, this is Scooby-Doo that I just drew. In case you didn't know.
You said so a minute ago.
I know,
and
but
you were talking about Scooby having
I'm
no
sorry.
spots.
It's just when I recorded the first one of the feedbacks I got is like, hey, you should be a little bit clear on what you're drawing, because it's like, I didn't know who some of those characters you drew were while drawing, so I was like lost. I was like, I guess I'll just be a little extra careful to be like, that's Scooby-Doo's head.
Okay.
But yeah, Dexter's Lab, that's a good show. But any other, I guess we could just go, let's see, Hanna-Barbera, that was Wacky Races.
No, never heard of that one.
No, with Penelope Pitstop and Dick Dastardly, who always
Nope.
cheated.
Nope, it's not coming to me.
Jabberjaw.
Oh, that name sounds so familiar, but I don't think.
It's the Three Stooge shark. Oh, a wise guy, eh? No respect at all.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw a few of those. Because that sounds really familiar too.
There's Adam Ant.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Up and Adam, Ant.
Yeah.
I didn't really watch that show. I just really liked that one music video that was like done in like a weird 3D cutout style, and used audio from that Duck and Cover Atomic Bomb video.
Yeah, I don't remember that one too well.
Anyways, do you have any more shows that you would like to ask questions, topics about?
Let's see.
Oh, anyways, I don't think I actually legitimately answered this out just real quickly. There's just the chance that they had different departments or even different animation studios drawing different parts, so then when things looked completely different, they just didn't. It's just like, yeah, we can't make the background look more like the foreground because A, it'll be more, our characters might disappear into the background, and B, it's maybe a completely different department that's working on it, and we can't get that, so.
Right.
But yeah, anyways.
So, this show that just popped into my head is super lewd and not appropriate for children or young adults.
Is it our friends from Japan who trying to emulate America?
I don't know,
Oh.
but it's Panty and Stocking.
Yeah, that was the Japanese animated show, but that was like trying in a lot of ways to emulate Western animation styles. Though, weirdly enough, that show, like, in a lot of ways kind of completely failed because they used animation techniques that was just super Japanese, and I'm like, yep, this was animated in Japan. They're doing those really lazy Japan things.
Tell me about the Japan things that I am not aware of, or probably am aware of, but not yet thinking about it.
So, the Japan likes when characters talk.
And the only thing that moves is their mouth.
Yes.
And their entire face doesn't move.
And, a good way to disguise that is to just have the camera pan over like a full body shot of them. And it's like, oh, this is dynamic and interesting. It's like, nah. No, it's not actually. It's really lazy and boring.
There was that one episode where the volleyball episode, where you just suddenly asked me if it was animated with Flash. And I said that I had no idea, because I'm not the animator. But what I was curious about is what tells were giving you the idea that that one episode and none of the others were animated in Flash.
It was very tweeny. It was a very tweeny episode. That's a word that you probably don't know if you're not an
No,
animator.
you are gonna tell me what tweening is now.
Okay, so tweening is just based. Well, it's derived from the word in between, but all
Hmm.
squished together and fast. Basically, in traditional animation, in between frames are just basically. Well, I mean, you draw frames and you draw a whole bunch of pictures, you put them all up together, and you play them at a certain frame rate, and you're like, oh, that's a moving thing. And it's like, ha, I fooled you. They're just pictures.
Hmm.
But so there's two different kinds of frames in animation. There's the keyframes, which are like the really important poses. Like those are like the poses that are going to kind of hold on the longest, or like are very important storytelling poses. So that's where it's really important to have like it should look good as a still image. Basically, is a keyframe.
Hmm.
While the in-betweens, they usually kind of look terrible as a still image, but that the important thing is that they get you from point A to point B in a good-looking way. So those are the in-between frames.
So
Now,
the tweens are the frames that maybe convey emotion or something,
yeah,
and so it's like I'm gonna correlate this to fighting games because that's what I know. But in Street Fighter 3, a lot of the characters have some tween frames, if that's the right word for them, that look really awkward.
oh yeah,
And like the fist, the arm is like really stretched out and strange looking, and but it's not because it's supposed to be anatomically correct, but it's conveying like motion. And then you see I assume the keyframe, which is when the fist contacts, and that's what you see.
right. Yeah. So traditionally, an artist has to draw all that,
Hmm.
but ever since computers came out, computers can basically figure out the in-between. Well, I mean, I say that. They almost never get it right, and it's then the animator's job to go in and be like, nah, you F that up, you F that up, that's okay, you F that... I mean, even with computer animation, you still need an artist to basically be there to be sort of like, that's right, that's wrong, that's okay, that's not okay.
I suppose it's always going to come around to having that human element involved because animation is not necessarily a logical
Yeah.
process, which a computer would only know how to do logically, so to speak. And so, as we were just discussing, you want those tween frames to make the keyframes look nice, I suppose.
Speaking of logical, Stocking's hair, not super logical. Not having a fun time drawing that.
What you
Anyway,
don't?
but
You mean with the color difference, or just the way that it retains its shape all the
it's
time?
just like a bowl. Like most hair,
Yeah.
people who are watching the video can see what I'm doing, but you're not. But I'll have to describe. Most hair has like sort of this part in the back where like the hair meets. She just has like a magical bowl that no matter what I draw, it looks bad.
Oh yeah.
She's like a Pac-Man ghost shape, and then you just cut out a piece. It's like, hello, I'm in the Pac-Man ghost. But she'd be like, hello, I'm in... my panty sounds like Marge Simpson.
That's it. But yeah, I know what you mean. She's like just in a sheet that
Right.
has a chunk of it missing.
I really like the character design, but I can't draw it myself and be happy. But anyways. Now, normally when the computer does it, people tend to call it tweening instead of the in-between frames. And in that panty and stocking episode, you could just tell by the way things move that they're very shape tweeny. Like you could see that they made symbols out of like the character's body parts and just told a computer to like slide them from point A to point B
Right.
instead of actually drawing two different arm poses then drawing in between arm poses.
Is that typically the order that you would do it in if you were animating? You would draw the keyframes first and then the in-betweens?
That's one sort of school of thought for doing it. Now I made her hair way too big. Stalking. Yeah, but that's sort of one school of thought is that's called frame by frame animation, or yeah, or keyframe animation. I'm actually not 100% sure what the correct word is. I'm sorry, but yeah, that's the way I was trained to do it. Basically, it's what I've been practicing at the very least of how to do it, and it's what I know how to do best. But there are people who do what's called straight ahead animation, which is where they just draw the first frame and then just draw all the frames chronologically. So they both have advantages, like typically in keyframe based animation you usually have way better timing because it's very thought out. You really plan it out what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
While in straight ahead animation you tend to have like much more sort of dynamic animation because you're not sort of strictly adhering to anything, you're just like running through like a nut. So they do have both their both have their pros and cons. Just straight ahead is really hard to do. You can get real janky real fast.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I have a lot of practice with.
Well, fun fact that you might not have known because I don't really tell people about this, but when I was younger, I had an image editing program. My grandmother had it actually. It was called Corel Draw, and it kind of was like a very, well, I don't want to say very old, but an older kind of Photoshop. And Photoshop probably existed at the same time, but Corel is what my grandmother had. And she gave me the disc that had the whole quote unquote office on it, so to speak. So it had like all these different image editing software and stuff. And one of them was an animating program.
Ooh.
So I messed around with it, and I actually made a few very short stick figure animations with them.
Fun.
With it. And I definitely did it the second method. What did you call it? Straight ahead animation. I did not have, obviously having no animation training whatsoever, I just did it one frame at a time with a mouse.
Yeah, that's probably going to be the method most people do when they kind of just jump into it. Like, I'm just going to wing it, and like, I'll just draw a picture and draw another picture. I'm pretty sure when I first started playing with pivot stick animation program, I just sort of, I probably just straight ahead brute forced it because it probably doesn't have the kind of options you would need to properly do keyframe animation. So I think most people when they start that way.
Yeah.
And I am having the word. I'm just having the word. There's not going to be a finished picture of a Pantene stocking character. I can't draw them. I can't do it.
That's okay.
I hope you enjoyed watching me flail at drawing characters from a Japanese show imitating Craig McCracken's Powerpuff Girl style. It was fun. No, it was a lie. That wasn't fun.
Well, do something fun then.
Alright. Do you have any more questions on Pantene stockings before we move on to something else to ask questions about?
Yeah, I'll just get to them eventually. I was just going to say that what I liked most about the animating program that I did mess with was I found that I was particularly, well, I don't want to say I was good at it, but I had the most fun, we'll say, animating like magic, I suppose.
Ooh.
Not, well, like I did try to animate something that looked like fire once, but that was really hard. But I mean things like auras, or if you've ever seen Sailor Moon, when you have those like shining ray-like attacks, that kind of stuff. I enjoyed doing that. Yeah. So that was fun, and I think that was almost more fun for me than actually animating the stick figures, because the stick figures would take me so long just to do what I would consider a simple action, because I had no idea how to do anything other than here's a frame, go to the next frame, move it a little bit, go to the next frame, move it a little bit more, you know.
That's also the way you animate with a stop motion, with like physical clay figures.
But I knew the whole time that I was messing with this animation program that there were 1,000,001 better ways to do this, so I only ever did it just for fun. But yeah, I enjoyed the animating the magic bits
Ooh,
or lasers. I remember trying to make one character shoot lasers out of like a laser gun. That was fun to animate.
ooh. I have found some neat effects in like Flash that are fun ways to make lasers.
Oh yeah.
So, once Flash is finally completely dead and I have to go to Toon Boom or whatever, I'm going to be like, how do I make cool lasers? No! I have to start all over again from scratch.
So back to Panty and Stocking, the episode that we were talking about, the volleyball one. The moment you asked me, the moment that seemed to catch your attention the most was when they were talking to the Demon Sisters through the volleyball net. So we were looking at the Demon Sisters' faces, and as they would talk to Panty and Stocking, their heads would like change size a little bit, and that was the moment that you seemed to pick up on something, and then that's when you asked me, is this animated with Flash?
Right.
And I was wondering if the head changing size was something that was a tell.
I think it was like the way the head moved, like they sort of like the way the head kind of tilted left and right, I think, if I'm thinking of the same scene, the way they sort of tilted the head.
Yeah.
It was very tweeny, it's sort of just like it's hard to describe. I mean, it would be easy if I could just pull up the episode and like watch it real quick, but I'm like, that would be a bad podcast video. Plus, I might get flagged by Studio Gynax.
Yeah, that wouldn't be fun. But I'm pretty sure.
Studio Gynax.
Yeah, it is. Panty and Stocking is what I learned about Studio Gynax's horrible reputation from.
Yeah.
Because, of course, the way they ended season 1 was awful, and they're not going to do a season 2. Thanks. Anyway.
Studio Gynax Spama.
I just think that's interesting because I don't know if the whole show was done with Flash or with one particular method or not, but I just think it was interesting because that's not the first episode, and we watched the whole show,
Yeah.
and you didn't say that until that episode, so I wonder.
That episode is so radically different and animated. And the fact that it's like a beach episode, I kind of feel as if they're like, F it, I don't care. And they just animated that episode on the cheap. They just
Maybe.
like, loaded up Flash and just animated it that way, while the rest of the series had like legitimate animation cells and stuff.
So what I thought was interesting was that if you had not said anything, I probably would never have noticed.
Right.
And I just wonder if that's... I mean, I don't really watch many cartoons these days, so that doesn't mean a whole lot coming from me that I wouldn't have noticed. But maybe someone who does watch cartoons, even if they're not an animator, if they just watch cartoons a lot, they probably would notice like one episode suddenly being not very great.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just the style of the show that it's already kind of not that detailed, which is not a bad thing. It's just not at the level of like a very high production value movie like a Studio Ghibli film. It's not at that level of detail, so I guess that one episode just didn't stand out to me.
I mean, they also had that Chuck episode where they like purposely had like dramatically different looks from various segments.
Yeah. And of course they had their like anime transformation sequences.
Yes.
Where they suddenly go full blown anime on it.
They also go full on not as even less safe for work.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just interesting that I would not have known. Compared to another show, Sailor Moon Crystal, which you may receive flack for if I complain about it, so I apologize ahead of time.
I don't know, I've seen some like entire blogs dedicated to how angry they are about Sailor Moon Crystal Season 1 and 2.
Well, I'm not going to say that I'm angry, but there was for sure an obvious dip in the quality near the middle. And so the first few episodes I liked. I didn't mind the new style, and I kind of was shocked by that pseudo 3D stuff, but I mean, it grew on me, and I didn't mind it. But near the middle, there were some really obvious like dips, and I remember I showed you a scene from the first season, and I was asking you if you saw anything that was curious, and right away you picked out that there was like one frame. They were showing the characters from their side profiles, and they were talking to someone else. I think it was, it doesn't matter. But Sailor Mars was talking, and there was one frame where they just basically redrew her face, and you picked that out right away. Because it was the DVD edition, so when they put it out on DVD, they had quote-unquote fix-ups, where they would just redo certain frames to make it look nicer. Mostly because they had gotten a lot of flack, probably from that one scene where Ray / Sailor Mars she like looked down and she put her hand near her face, and she had a really giant forehead for one frame. 1 or 2 frames maybe. She just had a huge forehead, and people did not leave them alone about that. So when they put it out on DVD, they redrew frames like that, where it was just like quote unquote particularly bad. And in that particular scene that I shared, I noticed it right away, but that's because I saw the original episode, and I was curious to know if you would have noticed it being an animator if I didn't say anything, and you did. You noticed it right away. But so in that case, with Sailor Moon Crystal, I do notice a huge drop in the quality. Well, I don't want to say a huge drop. A drop in the quality for sure. But I didn't notice it with Panty and Stocking. So maybe it's just I'm not used to flash animation, or that style of whatever. But for whatever reason, it's just more. Maybe I've seen more anime more recently than I have those kinds of old cartoons like the Powerpuff Girls, because I haven't seen shows like that since I was, 10, 11, 12.
Sailor Moon, it is a lot more of a detailed show, especially, I don't know, what would you say is more detailed, Crystal or the original series?
Oh, well, Crystal in certain, like the beginning and endings of seasons 1 and 2, they're more detailed than the 90s anime. But the 90s anime did have a whole lot of filler, and some of those filler episodes you could really tell they were just like, it's low budget, I already am thinking of episodes from Sailor Moon S. There was one episode where they fought some kind of clay monster, and it chased after Neptune, and she jumped and grabbed like a tree branch and sort of gymnast swung on top of it and was sitting on it. So she did the whole swing around and then stopped and sat on the branch in like 3 frames.
Ooh,
So you could,
like
it was, yeah, it was kind of janky. And then so yeah, I remember a lot of stuff like that. So it kind of depends on what parts of the show that you're referencing, because like the middle of Sailor Moon Crystal is probably on par with the kind of janky animation, but there are the very beginning of Sailor Moon Crystal season 1 and the very like a few smattering of episodes or a small smattering of episodes near the end of season 2, they just suddenly got super detailed and the animation was amazing, and then they just went away. So it was like one episode, it was like, whoa, and then after that it was like, eh. So those episodes are definitely more detailed than the 90s anime.
Right. I will say, really love the animation of the 3rd season from what I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my god, it's so good looking.
There are still some episodes where it kind of dips a little bit, definitely not as hard as the first 2 seasons did. But yeah, like it was amazing as far as it didn't feel like frames were missing, or for the most part. There were still a few scenes where I was like, you could have, put in a few more in-betweens or whatever you want to call it for that particular motion, but Yes, season 3 was definitely the redeeming thing about Sailor Moon Crystal as a whole.
I need to watch that.
Let's watch it together.
Yay!
I don't think Hulu has it anymore, though. I figured I was going to buy the DVD box sets anyway, so I'll probably do that.
Yeah, well, yeah, watch it on DVD box set and definitely don't go to www.watchcartoonsonline.com. That would
No,
be bad.
I'd probably get 1,000,001 viruses, too.
True. Don't pirate things, kids. Not because it's immoral, it's because so much spyware.
Yeah, and besides, you know, side note that has nothing to do with animation. People, do things for a profit, and you as a voice are the loudest with your wallet. So if you spend money to support someone doing something, then it encourages them to keep doing it. And if all you do is pirate everything, then it kind of discourages people from doing something because they don't get rewarded for it. They just do it, and then everyone pirates it, and then what's the point?
Everyone go to my Patreon, sponsor me so I could then legally buy Japanese cartoons. That's a joke. I don't have a Patreon for this show.
But yeah, sometimes I will go and buy things even if I don't need them, if that makes sense. Like, let me think. So there are some bits of the Bayonetta soundtrack, that I have, maybe that I got from YouTube. But I still went and bought the Bayonetta soundtrack, even though I'm not actually interested in the entire soundtrack, because I want to encourage the developers or whoever decided to do that, and the composers and all the people involved, to continue to do that and reward them for doing what they did.
Yay.
Meanwhile, I borrowed permanently my copy of Street Fighter V from my friend's brother, who's not interested in having it back, and I have no interest in actually paying for Street Fighter V because I don't approve of the way Capcom is handling it. So I didn't pirate the game, I borrowed it from someone and he never asked for it back. And so I have no interest in supporting Capcom in their nonsense.
That's what happened to my copy of Robotech for the PlayStation 2. Except instead of I never asked for it back, it's more I didn't ask for it back until after they moved to Washington. And they're like, "Aw, I want to play Robotech."
Anyway, that was my morality soapbox, if you want to call it a soapbox. Back to animation.
Yeah, anything else you want to say on Sailor Moon? Because I'm actually starting to get a good Sailor Moon head going here.
Well, a fun fact, the same person who voiced Sailor Moon in the original 90s anime came back to voice her in Crystal.
Okay, same.
So it's the same person.
Years ago.
Yeah.
How'd her voice age?
She doesn't sound any different.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, some kind of sorcery.
Good on you.
She's the only, as far as I know, she's the only returning voice actress for the original cast.
Yeah, when you're saying that, I thought you were going to say she came back to voice Serena's mom, or whatever the Japanese name is. No, she's just back in the saddle.
Yep.
Then again,
Usagi is her name, by the way.
Usagi is her actual Japanese name?
Uh-huh.
But then again, Rob Paulsen, he voiced Raphael in the 80s Turtles cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
And now for the 2012 cartoon, he's voicing Donatello. Different character, but he's still voicing one of the Turtles again.
Yeah.
Even though he's like 70 now. Oh, man. Dude, Rob Paulsen, why are you like the coolest guy ever?
Because he can voice characters that he did like 20, 30 years ago.
Well, he's voicing a different one, but he's still Rob Paulsen. Talented son of a fish.
Yeah. So, I do remember hearing, now I'm going to have to look it up, that one of the people who voiced one of the villains in the later seasons of the 90s anime did come back to Crystal, but did not voice the same person, the same character. I just can't remember who. And I don't want to really spoil it for people who haven't seen the original. Maybe people are like interested in watching Crystal play through, and I don't want to be like, oh, it was this character, and totally spoil it.
Ugh. I mean, would it be a spoiler? I guess. I don't know. I'm just wondering. Because if it's a character that was in like the 90s series, would it be a spoiler to say that this remake of Sailor Moon included this character?
Kind of would, because it's a like a pretty intensely important character in the manga, and we're pretty sure that Crystal is going to follow the manga much more closely than the 90s anime did.
I am. I think I just can't draw Japanese characters' hair today. I think that's what my issue is. I am messing up her spaghetti meatball hair. Remember that when
Yeah.
boy character called her spaghetti head or whatever?
Oh,
Damien or whatever?
oh. Sorry. Say that again.
What was like the civilian name for the boy when he was in Tuxedo Mask?
Darian.
Darian.
the DIC dubs version. Yeah, Darian.
He'd be like, "Oh, you're a spaghetti meatball hair." So like.
Okay, I don't know if I can. I almost have to spoil it now because it's so. Okay, so if you're in the audience and you're watching Sailor and Crystal, maybe we'll put a timestamp in the video or something so you can skip over the spoilers I'm about to give.
Ahead for a few minutes.
Yeah. So the voice actress for Sailor Galaxia was in the 90s anime, Mitsuko Horie. She, if you remember Sailor Galaxia in the original anime, I might have shown you in clips and stuff. She has this like sultry, villainous, like deep, well, I don't want to say deep, but like deeper voice. And she did come back to Crystal, and she sang the opening for season 3, which is this high pitched like girly song. And I'm like, wow, that person who did that like Ultimisia like voice with the deep and sultry came back to do this like high pitched anime opening. What?
That does sound silly.
So there you go.
No, well, I mean, yeah. If you compare it to Ultimisia, I'm definitely going to be like, oh yeah, I know. I know. So but she just sang the intro.
She sang the
an
intro.
Actual character.
Not yet. No, she just sang the intro.
Sailor Galaxia! Galaxia!
Sailor Galaxia.
She had a cool design.
You think so?
Well, yeah, she had like she had like the dress like everyone else, but her dress was made out of gold and looked armory.
I had heard of some people who like slashed it, like people are on the fence about it. So I've heard one person say that it looks like chandeliers.
I'm just like, hey, it's the first like sailor soldier or whatever, beautiful soldier who actually looks like they're wearing armor, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you're a soldier. Wear some armor.
Yeah, it's true.
Though, how sad is it that there are other Japanese cartoons that have come out? I think I've made her hairline way too high up. Like, she has way too much forehead, I think. Yeah, that's the problem. But anyways, that like you have these girls who wear schoolgirl uniforms when they fight evil, and nowadays there are far, far, far more scantily clad heroines. It's kind of depressing. Like
let's just hope that they don't discover my one weakness, which is my areolas. Therefore, that's the only part I have to cover.
Jeez. No. They found my weakness, the fact that my battle armor exposes all of my cleavage and therefore also like my organs.
Yeah. Don't stab me right in the heart, even though I'm basically telling you to do exactly that.
It's like in a video game where you're fighting a boss and the boss has a big old glowing weakness and you're like, I wonder what I'm gonna be
Hmm.
shooting today.
Yeah. That reminds me of, okay, we're getting off the topic of animation yet again. I'm sorry.
It's cool.
But it reminds me of the 3DS remake of Majora's Mask, which I was all for, but in all the bosses, they put giant eyeballs. So it was like, great, I wonder where I'm supposed to shoot.
Yeah, I noticed those giant eyeballs are like,
Did you really have to hold our hands that intensely, Nintendo? Really?
I mean, it wasn't even Nintendo. It was like some third party, I think even an American company, who was all like, "Hey, here's one of our incredibly classic IPs. Just put it on the next on our handheld." And like, okay. And they're like,
Hmm.
"This is really hard. Let's let's uh let's
Let's
make the
dumb it down.
weaknesses very very obvious."
It wasn't even that, like, some of them, like Georg, didn't really have a single weak point like that, but he had one when they, in the 3DS remake, because he had a giant eyeball in his mouth.
In his mouth?
Yeah, it was in his
Georg the
mouth.
goat?
Yeah.
But don't you beat him by like rolling into a ball and like smashing his back?
No, no, you're thinking of Got,
Got, okay. Georg was the
or
fish?
Goat, or, yeah, he was the Great Bay Temple
Yeah.
boss.
I feel like they changed his boss battle, like they had like an entirely new underwater section in his boss battle or something.
Pretty much, because he had that giant eyeball there that wasn't there before. I used to be scared of Georg when I was younger. Now I don't. I mean, it doesn't trigger that same, even though it wouldn't really truly scare me anymore, but it just doesn't, mostly because, I don't know, it just feels so. When I saw the eyeball, that's what really kind of just killed it.
Was it? I just used to be in general scared of Majora's Mask because it's like it played into my fears of the world ending and like the moon crashing into Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was sort of like a thing in the news at the time that the moon was going to eventually fall into Earth. So
Oh,
I was like,
really?
so I was like in this sort of like doomsday panic, and it's not even like it wasn't even like saying it's going to happen soon. It was like saying in like 72 years or in 150 years the moon's eventually just going to fall into the Earth or something like that. And I was like, oh no 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 no. So when Majora's Mask came out about the moon, can you blame me? That was also like the scariest moon ever.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you play if you go and you play Dead Space 3 and you're like, "Oh man, there's a giant necromorph moon. That's so scary." I'm like, "No, Majora's Mask moon, scariest moon. Don't
yeah.
your tentacle moons are nowhere near as scary as that angry face." Or this Sailor Moon face I just drew. That's a pretty scary face. I apologize.
Not as scary as Chun-Li's face in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite.
Yeah. Ah.
Anyway,
Anyways, any more Sailor Moon questions?
uh,
Or are we moving on?
I can't think of any, but I'll probably come back to it if it comes up. If I suddenly think of something, which is likely.
Do you have any more things you'd like to talk about?
Not off the top of my head. I'm just kind of winging it.
Uh, well, we've just about hit an hour, so I mean, it could be a good time to wrap up then if you can't think of anything else.
No, I probably will think of cool things to talk about afterward.
Well, then I'll just have to invite you to be guest on another show.
I better write them down.
Better. So, anyways, that was the second episode of Drambling. I think we really played the name straight because we got pretty rambly, going off on
Yeah.
some tangents. But you know what? That's sort of like my favorite kind of podcasts and videos where you don't stick to a very specific thing. You just kind of let the organic conversation happen.
It certainly did.
Well, thank you for watching. And if you like this video, I'm not going to ask you to like it because A, likes are useless on YouTube analytics, and B, I'm not doing this as some sort of profession. If you like this video, you can leave a comment and tell me why you liked it. Or if you didn't like this video, leave a comment and tell me why you didn't like this video. Goodbye. Are you gonna say goodbye too?
Goodbye.